Hi and welcome to the Weenie Rose podcast. And Jose, as you're aware, David has been MIA these past 2 episodes, but he's back. Say hello, David.
Hello, Neil.
Hello?
What are we talking about this episode?
Well, we're going to be talking and ranking all Scream 6 movies.
Do you both like scary movies?
Yes, David, we like scary movies.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, mine's definitely The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah, I'd also agree with that, Jose. The Thing, easily.
That's the one with the shape-shifting alien, right? By John Carpenter.
Yeah, you said that. John Carpenter, David.
That movie's scary.
Can you stop doing the voice now? It's weird.
What voice?
Yeah, David, the bit's done, okay? Stop with the voice.
Maybe that's because I'm not David.
Anyway, getting back to the actual podcast now, it's clearly been a day of day drinking for David again.
No, you listen to me, you little shit. Talk to me like that again and I'll gut you like a fish, you understand
Well, committing to the bit there, David.
I want to play a game. Trivia round on Scream. As that was what the podcast was about, right? 3 questions. Get one wrong and I'll slice David and spill his insides.
I mean, I'm okay with that, Jose.
Me too. I'm good.
I prepared the questions anyway. I'm just going to go through them. It's easy. Here's a practice question. Who plays the original main character of Scream?
David, why do you sound like a guy from a Western now? And not Ghostface?
It happens.
Well, obviously, Nev Campbell.
See, it's easy. Question 1. That was just a practice round. Who directed the first 4 films in the Scream franchise?
Wes Craven.
Correct. What was the name given to the series of films based on the Woodsboro murders?
That was Stab.
Correct again. Just one more to go. What was the name of the first on-Scream victim on Scream?
Drew Barrymore's character, Casey Becker.
Ooh, sorry. That was the wrong answer. It was Steve.
Oh.
Casey's boyfriend was the first killer. Now you gotta say bye-bye to David.
Bye, David.
Well, that's one way of getting David off this podcast.
Yeah, it's just you and me now, Jose.
All right, this is my plan all along.
I mean, if you could see right now, listeners, I think David's really coming to the bit. He's really coming to the bit. Or he's just passed out.
Hey guys, yeah, sorry I'm late. I needed a shit. IBS kicked in. Sorry about that. What did I miss?
Well, first of all, David, you're alive. Not from that whole bit, but just generally because we haven't seen you in the last couple of podcasts, and you definitely haven't been murdered by your fiancé/wife now, depending on when this podcast comes out.
I am back. I am here, alive. I had to clear up the body that was in my space. But
and you're either really close to getting married, which how the nerves, or you are now married and back from your honeymoon. So congratulations.
As of recording, getting married. As of episode going out, probably married. That's how soon it is.
Yay.
So,
Yay.
yeah. If it is after April 30th, 2023, I'm off the market, ladies. I'm sorry. But if it's not, drop me a line.
Right, well, that took some effort, and yes, we are here today to talk about all the Scream movies and give you our rankings from Screams 1 to 6 and see if we can agree on anything. And Jose, you're going to drop out when we get to Scream 6 because you realised you'd only seen the first film recently and have tried to marathon in all of them. And, I mean, fair play, you were watching Scream 5 at 7 o'clock this morning, your time, which was, fair play.
Yeah, I think we need to show respect. We need to show respect to her.
Yeah.
Let's have a round of applause.
Thank you.
He managed
Golf
to
clap.
squeeze in all of those screams in like...
It's funny because I heard from you that 3 and 4 were not great, and 2 I thought I had watched, so I was just gonna recap it.
You heard from Neil that they weren't
Yes.
great.
And so I recapped the second movie. I realized I hadn't watched the second movie, and then from there I realized I hadn't watched any of the sequels. But to my detriment, I think, because I watched 3, 4, and 5 last night, which wasn't the plan. I should have started earlier, but procrastination. But those movies, for what they were just really entertaining. I think that's one thing that I kind of had to realize is, yeah, they were scary, but really they were trying to be more entertaining than anything. So they were technically horrors, but not in the same vein as some of these other horror movies.
I think that's it with a lot of Scream. Like the entire Scream franchise, they're not scary. They're not scary films. The scariest moment in any of the Scream films for me is the opening 10 minutes of the first Scream.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That to me is genuinely frightening what happens to Casey. But the rest of the film is genuinely, it's more entertaining and thrills, and you get entertained by the imaginative ways killers come up with killing their victims, that sort of stuff. It's not actually scary, even though like Ghostface as a mask is still frightening. It's dated at this point, but it's still the films become more.
You know what it is?
It's
the fact that it's basically like an episode of Scooby Doo with a lot more violence.
Oh yeah, I forgot just how bloody everything it was, and even the third one, which was supposed to be less bloody. I saw this in one of the fun facts that they were trying to make it funnier and less violent to avoid a R rating, but
why would you even make a Scream film and not go for the R rating? That's just
exactly.
Ugh.
But that's like PG-13.
Well, the R rating's not even the highest.
NC-17.
Because Jose, explain the ratings for us for non-American.
In the U.S., 99.9% of the movies are in this category. It's G for general audiences, which is like Pixar and Disney films. PG, which is serious Pixar films, or just general movies. Which honestly,
might have a little
I
bit
don't
of
think
death
they're
in them.
really. Yeah. I don't think there are really many PG movies anymore because
it's PG-13 now, isn't it?
PG-13 is the next one.
Was created
That's the sweet spot
because of Jurassic Park.
No, it was created because Temple of Doom.
I thought it was Jurassic
Indiana
Park.
Jones.
12A. 12A. You're right, Jose. PG. There was 12A was Jurassic Park.
Ah, see, British connection.
I'm not even sure that's correct because 12A is. I remember 12A coming out, and I don't remember Jurassic Park coming out because Jurassic Park came out when I was born.
That's because you. Yeah,
So I think 12A is new.
Anyway, getting off the point a little bit here.
But yes, so rated R is the majority of the top for a lot of films. If anything, that's more normally what we expect just for adults, slashers, horrors, and even action movies. Which like Deadpool is one of the few that are rated R now. But it was very common in the 90s for a lot of rated R movies. But now because of money, the PG-13 is where a lot of things are. And they kind of get away with
I think you
things
can say
that you'd
fuck
be surprised.
once in a PG-13 film.
Yes. And I think anything after that is just NC-17, which, to be honest, that's more of a sexual content thing. So horror movies are not connected to that at all. But yes, you were very astute to say that R is not the top. But it's very uncommon to see an NC-17 movie. In the
well,
because
it means no certification, right? Which means not many places going to show it.
That's more knowledge than I have.
Okay,
but it just seems
that's what I believe the NC stands for. It's no certificate, so it's unrated.
Oh, okay.
So, David, I think you're going to start us off, seeing as Scream 1, it was the first in the series, and your favourite film of all time. Take us away.
Yes.
Is it really all-time favorite?
Yeah, man, I love this film.
Wow.
I fucking love Scream. I genuinely, it is like a yearly watch, maybe twice a year.
Wow.
I'll get through to it. I watched it again today.
Nice.
I did know we had this podcast coming.
Yes.
But it specifically was Scream 1 that I watched and not Scream 2. It's hard to actually explain why I love the movie so much. I think it's just like it's like a comfort movie at this point for me. Shall we talk about the absolute genius that is the first 10 minutes of the first Scream film?
I found out not only was Drew Barrymore a surprise death, but it was actually because she was supposed to be Sydney, and she was like, no, I want to die quickly, but I also wanted to make it that where the celebrities are not safe, because at that time she was the biggest name. And so everyone thought she was going to be the main heroine. So for her to die was a great opportunity that she took upon herself.
Yeah, it was huge. So Drew Barrymore was initially the first person on the project. The first person. So Kevin Williamson, he was the first person that was attached to the project, was Neil Campbell. But even before Wes Craven. Wes Craven came on to direct Scream because Drew Barrymore was doing it. And because of this initial 10-minute death scene. Drew Barrymore wanted this character because she saw it as a Janet Leigh moment in Psycho.
Yes.
And it is, I think, as iconic as that Psycho moment. It might not have the the audio score that goes along with it, but it is just as gory, just as heart-wrenching. It is the only moment in the entire Scream franchise that genuinely makes me upset to watch. Where she gets stabbed and she's still on the phone to her parents and she's crying out, help me, and then she gets strung up Suspiria style by the tree, in a homage to that. One of the first and many homages to all the other slasher films that come before it. And it's also the first film where we see that this is a different type of slasher film that we're watching entirely because of the likes of all the references that I mentioned from the phone call. I mean, the phone call itself is a homage to When a Stranger Calls, but you've got the likes of Halloween being mentioned in the phone call. You've got Friday the 13th being mentioned in the phone call, which is the trick question. So we're already setting and establishing the fact that this is a movie and a franchise that is set in a world where these slashers exist, and it's hitting that meta bang straight from the off.
One thing the series does, you have the film geek character who has to explain the rules of horror films, and then as the series goes on,
Randy Meeks.
Jamie
Randy.
Kennedy, probably his best on-screen performance, actually, to be honest.
Hell yeah, man! Randy is awesome.
I have to agree. Actually, I didn't even think about it until you just said it, but I don't know of any other main characters that... I mean, Malibu's Most Wanted is a fun film, but not as iconic as this character in Scream and Scream 2.
Yeah, so every single one of these films has their own separate set of rules depending on where it is in the franchise. So the first film's obviously got the... Jose, what are the rules?
Never say, I'll be right back.
Yes.
Don't have sex.
That's the one I remember, because they actually incorporated in a couple of the next films is I'll be right back.
I think it's a running joke in almost every one of them now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is. And there's actually there's actually like a set of questions where people say "I'll be right back" and don't die. That in the Scream
Well, I was about to say,
that's like a thing.
Bar the first film, I don't think anyone actually does die when they say "I'll be right back." Do they? I can't remember that off the top of my head.
Yeah, of course, Stu dies because he's the main one. I'll be right back. Oh!
But not right. He does.
He dies. He's the killer.
He dies, but he doesn't die by.
Does he though?
Wow. This is one of the theories, isn't it? This is one of the theories. David.
Yeah. So obviously, Stu says it. I'll be right. Like the famous. I'll be right back. Yeah,
that's a great moment, honestly.
As he goes out, his performance, Matthew Lillard's performance, is like how he didn't get any kind of awards. For that, I don't know, because he laid the blueprint for every single Scream villain from then on. Every single one of them after that has been some sort of unhinged, crazy element to them.
But here's the thing: is I think both him and the other guy, Skeet
Billy
Ulrich,
Loomis, named after which film character?
Billy Loomis. Well, two
Halloween.
films. One was. Yeah, Halloween, and the second one was Psycho.
Okay. Oh, what's the Psycho connection?
But
yeah, Psycho is the husband, I think, of the
Janet Leigh.
One of the characters is called Janet Leigh's character, or the boyfriend or something is something Loomis.
But I feel like they actually do it in a way that's like not just dumb. I know, like obviously all a lot of the motives are very thin in general. Like, okay, you just got upset. But the way that they play it, they do more realistic emotions than just like, oh, yeah, I want to be famous, or I want to make a movie, or just the second one.
That's what's good with Skeet Ulrich's character in the first one is they make him look so dodgy early on, and then you think, oh, but it can't be him. It can't be the boyfriend. It's too obvious to be the boyfriend. And you don't have sex with the killer, and then the killer kills you, which is exactly what Sidney does.
I love how all the red herrings are set up as well in the first film. So, I mean, you've got him as the obvious massive red herring at the beginning, but then it gets disproven because at that point in the film, you don't know that there's two killers. Because, what we haven't spoken about is how how the film takes, which is different to like regular, like classic slashers like your Halloweens and your Friday the 13th, where you've got the supernatural killer. It takes the Giallo approach to who the killer is, and that in itself is just fucking brilliant, because every single Scream film after this, you're constantly trying to look for the clues as to who the killer's going to be.
Yes.
Who is the killer. And I don't know, Jose, we'll get to whether you manage to think or guess any of the killers from any of the films at any of the points when we get to it. Okay, guys, so let's round up everybody's thoughts on Scream. What is your favourite moment from Scream? It's a Scream, baby! Come on, what's your favourite moment?
What is the moment from Scream? Go, Neil.
Bizarrely, my favourite bit, I think it's the... what's her name? Rose McGowan's death scene. I don't know. For some reason, I thought favourite bit from Scream, and her getting caught in a cat flap, and then the garage bit, and just that just stuck out for me.
You just like to erect nipples. That's what you really
Jesus,
like. As she
David.
goes into that very cold garage.
Well, I mean,
That's
the
what you were
beer had
liking.
to be cold. The beer had to be cold, David.
That's the one like hilariously stupid moment in that film where her nipples are just all of a sudden like boing, like super erect.
Yeah.
It's so silly. Yeah, man, that place must have been freezing. Jose, favorite moment?
Honestly, the scene where Jamie Kennedy explains the rules of the movies, because I think that was one of the most obvious and early moments of a film being meta, and it's something that carries on in all the movies. But I feel like this movie just did it the best, because it's like, yes, it's meta, but it's not being aware that it's meta, and it's not over the top meta, which some of the movies can have.
I think that comes down because of the writer at the time, which was Kevin Williamson, who at the same time was doing Dawson's Creek. And if you watch Dawson's Creek, teenagers do not talk like that. They,
Right,
and
yeah.
they don't talk, and they don't talk the way they talk in Scream in real life, to be honest. But that super heightened way of being aware of what you're in, of like that's what Williamson had down.
Yeah, he was brilliant at it. My favourite moment is from a character that we haven't mentioned yet, Deputy Dewey, David Arquette, and he's when he's licking the ice cream, and it's mirroring his detective, his chief, smoking the cigarette.
Oh.
It's just fucking comedy. It's pure comedy. It's hilarious when you see it. That's my favourite moment.
And of course, we could talk for a whole pod and more about Scream 1 because it is a genre-defining classic, but we don't have the time and we need to move on to Scream 2. And first of all, one of the big pros for me on Scream 2, when I saw it, I was like, Buffy's in it. Sarah Michelle Gellar is in it. And spoiler for I Know What You Did Last Summer, which came out around the same time, she dies in I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I remember thinking, there's no way they kill Buffy in this, right? There's absolutely no way. Sarah Michelle Gellar is a star. She's a million times better than Neve Campbell. She's easily going to be like one of perhaps the killer. I remember when I went to the cinema to watch it and I was like, very disappointed when she got killed off about 40 minutes in, I think it was.
It should be mentioned that she was also in I Know What You Did Last Summer was also written by Kevin Williamson.
Oh, wow.
So not only he fucking
well, and also the star of that franchise was Jennifer Love Hewitt, who was in Party of Five with Neve Campbell.
No,
So there
nice
you go.
little connection
Connections.
there.
Yeah.
Connections.
But
all
yeah, they
over
killed
the place.
Buffy, man. They killed Buffy. Twice he killed Buffy.
Well,
They chuck her off a building. Her death was actually quite disappointing. I was a bit disappointed by how she died. I think if you're going to kill Buffy off, you got to do something. You got to stake her through the heart.
Oh,
or
that
something.
would've
You
been
got to have a
funny.
reference to other areas. But yeah.
So I have to say, just in general, like with not just this movie, but all the following Scream movies, they had really good people come in and just even do small bit parts.
Yeah, 100%. The draw to get big time, like big actors in, or just generally good
Character actors,
TV
yeah.
actors or movie actors, was fantastic
well,
throughout.
and I
100%.
suppose the appeal, if you're one of these actors, is if you know you're going to be killed off, you know you're not going to be working full time on it, so it's not a full time job, but you're going to get promoted the hell out of it because the audience doesn't know you're going to only be in a couple of scenes. And I mean, like I said, in this one, obviously you have the boyfriend again, which is Jerry O'Connell's character in it this time.
Yeah,
and of course,
I'm a big fan of his.
immediately you're just like, I'm a fan of Jerry O'Connell.
The fat guy from
Stand By Me.
Stand By Me. He's fucking hot.
He had his own TV show before this, or around the same time, called Sliders. Yes, Jose.
Big fan of that
I
one.
love Sliders. We're going to talk about Sliders one day.
Yes, another day. Yes, but no, yeah, I think also this is one of the few that didn't have the love interest be the actual killer.
Never trust the love interest.
Yeah,
it's another rule for later on. You
Mhm.
never trust
But,
the love interest. But that's an interesting point that you make there,
Yeah.
mate, because Scream 2, we should say it's not set in Woodsboro. Neve Campbell's gone off to college. Ghostface has followed her there. Murders start happening again around her. We've got the legacy characters back.
Well,
returning characters
at
of
that point.
Gail Weathers as Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers, Dewey Riley, David Arquette, and I believe that's it from the returning characters. Oh, Cotton Weary.
Jamie Kennedy.
Oh, of course.
Well, you know what?
yeah,
Here's the
Jamie
thing
Kennedy.
is, I didn't watch, honestly, the first two to like really remember everything. Was Cotton in the first one?
No, was
He
he?
was, yes. He's in news
Okay.
footage.
Was it Liev Schreiber playing him in that as well?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so they knew.
Yeah, it was,
They knew it was
yeah.
going to bring him back for the second, if there was a
Oh,
second. I
wow,
guess.
that's really cool.
Yeah, well, there was Kevin Williamson wrote it as a trilogy originally.
Okay, that makes sense because that second movie came out literally less than a year, like by about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was probably already penned by the time the first film was around. But it's interesting that you mentioned the boyfriend not being the killer, and one of the only ones to do it, because the second Scream was riddled with script changes.
Because there was a
and
leak.
ending changes, like massive, loads of them. Loads of them. So the original ending, it was going to be the boyfriend.
The boyfriend
It was
and the
going to be the
roommate.
boyfriend and the roommate.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Sorry, I'm
That's
like
it.
excited
Jose's
that
done
I know
his-
this.
Jose's done his knowledge, and that's it. And they had to change it because people, it leaked out there. There was a lot of like hush over who the killer was going to be because of the massive uproar from the original Scream. Like I said, the murder mystery style element of the show was huge at that point, and they actually take the piss out of it in Scream 3. So in Scream 3, there's constant references to all the script changes that's going on the stab movies and stuff like that, and they're taking the piss out of what happened on Scream 2.
I think Scream 3, Neil kind of just shit on it, honestly, and in our conversations off the podcast, and I had such low expectations. And I was so pleasantly blown away. You know, it isn't a masterpiece of film, but it's just a generally good film. You know, it has its moments, like I think all of these movies have, where you're just like, oh, come on. But for the most part, I think even all the way almost up to the end, it's a pretty solid, like you follow along. And it's meta and especially well done for that time. Well, sorry, I jumped to 3.
No.
Yes. No, that's okay. We can
jump around. That was a band at the time as well. House of Pain. The main thing we haven't talked about yet in 2 is who the killers were. And it was Mickey Altieri, played by Timothy Olyphant, and Debbie Salt / Nancy Loomis, played by Laurie Metcalf, who I think most people knew for Roseanne. And I think Olyphant had barely done anything at that time. I think I remember seeing him in Go around the same time, which was a really good film.
Yes, good film.
Also, Katie Holmes, so another link to Kevin Williamson.
Mm-hmm. And again, I think that it's one of those times where they got really good casting ahead of these people blowing up. And, you know, that one I feel like it's a little weird. It's just the way that it's not quite found its footing in terms of like, it lost its way a little from the second one, and the third one got pretty meta. But this one was just like, you know.
There's that moment at the very beginning where they're in the film class and they're going on about all the different sequels that there are, and they're like naming all the different sequels. So, for instance, Godfather 2, classic, Terminator 2, classic, you know, and so it knew it was living in a world where it was already up against it, trying to be better than the original.
True, very true.
You know, and it was never gonna be better than the original. Everyone knew Scream was a classic, but it didn't have to be as good as the original. All it had to be was a fun, entertaining, brilliant movie, and that's what it was.
And of course, opening up with the fate. I mean, funny story. I was in New York for the premiere of Freddy vs. Jason on opening night in Times Square, and I forget the famous, is it the AMC now, the big one they have in Times Square, but I forget what the cinema was at the time. First time I've ever been to a cinema in the States, and the crowd were all dressed up like Freddy, like Jason, like Ghostface, and I've never been to a screening.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, I've never been to a screening where I remember getting in there's a lift there. They had a lift guy. So you go in the lift, and there was a guy in the lift asking you what floor you wanted in a cinema. That blew my mind. And
wow, that's awesome.
You know, people are yelling out through the trailers, and it reminded me of the opening of Scream 2, where they're watching, where
yes.
Jada Pinkett Smith gets stabbed. Because I was looking around, and everyone's just like standing up there with like the rubber knives, and I'm thinking, holy shit, this is still New York in the early 2000s, man. Jesus Christ. But it made that experience made a bad, like a generally, you know, you watch Freddy vs. Jason after, you're like, it's fine. But the experience of seeing it with that crowd on opening night when everyone was just G'd up, and I just, again, I imagine the makers had some kind of idea of like, if you was at a proper horror screening with the fans and they were going mental. Also, shout out to Heather Graham, who plays Casey Becker in that one.
Yeah, I love the casters of the original. Like that they've got, like you've got Luke Wilson as Billy Loomis, and like there's so many,
and
like there's massive actors.
their scenes were actually filmed and directed by Robert Rodriguez.
Nice.
Like these series just doesn't
there's,
let up.
there's layers to
It's
this.
so
yeah,
good.
It really is. Yeah, there's so many like small layers to everything.
Now, David, can you remind me what the killer's links were to Sydney in this one?
So the Loomis was Billy Loomis's mother.
Who Sydney's Sydney's dad had the affair with, right?
Yes.
Which is why she was all stabby.
And the second one, there was no motive for. It was more like cinema violence was causing him to.
Yeah, it was a really
kill everybody.
That was a pretty weak motive, but I think, like I said before, there are a lot of weak motives.
As Randy Meeks says in the first Scream, it's the millennium. Motives are irrelevant or something along those lines.
And I think I think the makers of the film just wanted another guy who looked pretty much like Skeet Ulrich did in the first film, because young Oliphant looks pretty much the spit of him in it, to be fair.
And you kind of also need someone who's, I hate to say it, but like a tall male figure to be strong enough to do some of these scenes to be plausible.
What I did like, though, as well, I did like the Cotton Weary storyline going through that. I thought Liev Schreiber did a good job with that, because, again, it's so obvious that the guy who was wrongly put away for the murder should potentially be the killer. Because,
again, red herrings, man. Mm-hmm. All these brilliant red herrings throughout. Every single one of them's got it. Every Scream has got these fantastic red herrings.
Yes, I have to say, watching all these, I didn't guess anybody. I think you asked me earlier, and I'm like,
yes, I did. Yeah,
even knowing that like has to be one of these people. They did a good job of just throwing the red herrings, which I kind of knew. Okay, that's too obvious, but still, I'm like, who could it be? You know, like who am I missing? So that's really what I think I enjoyed about the franchise. Is like, it's in there, but you're just enjoying it for the most part.
Yeah, the what was so good about the first Scream that this Scream got slightly wrong, and maybe is a reason why it's not as good as the first one. Is some of the deaths are very
unmemorable.
Not unmemorable, it's just unrealistic. Like the very first death where the guy gets stabbed through the toilet door.
Yeah, oh my!
That's really
that wouldn't
tough.
happen in the first. That wouldn't have happened in the first Scream, because how the fuck did anyone know he was there? Like, how did he know? Like his head would have had to have been up there. So it's a bit like unbelievable. And then you've got like where they're trying to escape through the car and Ghostface is out conscious. Just take his fucking mask off.
I remember shouting at
everyone in the world would have done that. Like everyone in the fucking cinema is screaming, just take his fucking mask off. What are the character decisions doing? But there's a film later on that's even worse for that, which really fucking pissed me off.
Which I'm sure we'll get to. But finally rounding off on Scream 2, I would say, as always, which I haven't mentioned yet today, soundtrack. Great soundtrack. It's got an Everclear B-side called The Swing in it, which was brilliant. And they played it when I saw them a couple of months ago, which was awesome, because they're like, what are the odds on getting a B-side off Scream 2? But more than that, I think it was might have been one of the first times I ever heard Less Than Jake, who do the ska punk version of I Think I Love You on the end credits. And it starts with like dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
That one. Brilliant. Yeah. That was.
Whilst we were on soundtracks, Don't Fear the Reaper from the first Scream, where it's like the like piano sort of ploddy version of Don't Fear the Reaper, and it's like it's so perfect because who's the character on screen when that happens? It's the fucking killer.
Also, of course, the first Scream, and it's in a lot of the other films. I don't know if it's in all the films, but it's been in the more recent ones again. Nick Cave, Red Right Hand, which has been used in so many shows and movies since, but Scream did it first, then it was used in Hellboy, because, obviously Hellboy's got a big right red hand. And then obviously it was then the theme music for Peaky Blinders in the UK. And so you've got all these generations of people who perhaps don't even know that it was first used in Scream. So yeah.
Wow.
Nick Cave has obviously made a lot of money out of that song, man.
Hey,
yeah,
right.
Definitely. Let's move on to Scream 3, and we are in Hollywood.
All I have to say is worst haircut for Courtney Cox.
Oh, dude, this is the film with bad bangs.
Yes. Man.
The movie with bad bangs. Yeah, Courtney Cox is not a great look for her.
Yeah.
And we should say that she had an actual real life relationship with David Arquette throughout the Scream franchises. In interviews, she said they were married. They're divorced now, sadly. Yeah, she said that she was like flirting in Scream 1, shagging in Scream 2, and then married in Scream 3.
Huh.
And what happened in Scream 4? Separate trailers.
They were still married.
Just wasn't going well.
They were still good. So Scream 4 is good. Scream 5, it's getting a bit iffy for them.
That's one thing I didn't really like with the marathon aspect of it, watching all these movies back to back, everything hits a little harder. But for me, one aspect of it was annoying seeing Courtney Cox and David Arquette going back and forth with the relationship. I'm like, just pick it already. You know, are they together? Are they not together?
Just fuck already. Come
so
on. What are you
annoying.
doing?
Like because it was in 4 they got married, and then by 5 they were divorced again. And I'm like, that was one of those small little frustrations. But back to 3.
I think it's because they were actually married in 4 and they were actually divorced in 5.
Oh,
like in real life.
Yes, that's great.
So,
I didn't even think about that.
Moving on to the start of Scream 3, I love the fact that you had the killing of Cotton Weary right at the very start. I was just like, oh, well, that's taking him off the board, because I thought, again, because they left enough suspicion around him at the end of 2 that he potentially could go down that path somehow. And he was so positioned to be the killer man. So it was just a good reason. I do think Scream 3 is one of the weaker. I think it's weaker than Scream 1 and 2, obviously. But like you were saying earlier, Jose, there isn't even the weakest films in this franchise. They're not bad, outright bad. You look at franchises like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween. When you get to around 3 and 4, I mean, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, become a cult classic. But at the time, people were like, what the fuck is this? Where's Michael Myers? What's the deal with the masks?
Friday the 13th 4 is one of the best ones as well, I think.
But it's all right. We're talking about 3, though.
The one thing about this, though, is this is the one where Neve Campbell sees her dead mom. And I thought that was a little weird. Like
it is a bit weird.
It was kind of out of nowhere.
It's quite where she sees her like body and it's in the tarp because. So we should state that. So the Scream. This is the filming. Is it Stab 2 or Stab 3 that they're filming?
Stab 3. Stab 3. So they're filming Stab 3 during Scream 3, this film. Anyway, and they're back at Woodsboro, and they've got on set. They're on set.
They're on set in Hollywood, back at Woodsboro, and they have got Neve Campbell's. They're filming almost like a flashback scene of Neve Campbell's mother being killed. So Sidney Prescott's. What's her mother called?
Maureen or something, but I think
Maureen Prescott. Yes. Yeah. She's no Sharon Stone.
Well, I want to go back just a little bit in saying that the first 2 were 96, 97. This was in 2000, and I think if you look at the technology, the internet was getting bigger, and some of the jokes that are in this, like I think they must have been smart for their time because it's so much more relevant even now.
Throughout the entire franchise, man, this is one of my things. Scream is ahead of its time.
Yes. Throughout
everything, man. I mean, this. It should also say this is the first film that wasn't written by Kevin
Erin
Williamson.
Kruger.
Okay.
It was written, Erin Kruger, who's gone on to do Top Gun Maverick and massive films like that.
It definitely had a different feel for sure. And I think it also...
It takes a more comedy approach, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a lot funnier, it's a lot lighthearted, it takes itself a lot less seriously.
Jane Silent Bob had a cameo in it.
I forgot about Jane Silent Bob, man.
This is all fresh in my head.
Playing himself. So, dude, it makes you think... So, Scream is in the same universe.
In the universe, yeah, man.
And Carrie Fisher made that cameo.
I was about to say.
And then Lance Hendrickson plays that studio guy. He was a little chunkier in that role. And I was like, it took me a second to realize, but then when he speaks, I'm like, oh, Bishop. Yeah, it's just like, this is so cool.
I remember him from that show Millennium, Frank Black as well. He was brilliant in that as well.
And skipping to the back at the end of this movie because of Lance, I'm talking about Lance Hendrickson. I love how with these movies, I don't think they did it in 2, did they? It goes back to like having a patsy being tied up and then being pulled out of nowhere to be like, oh, this is my plan and here's my patsy. And then, but they actually kill him right away. But I just thought that whole thing throughout the rest of the movies is just awesome.
Well, that brings us to the killer. And in Scream 3, the killer is the only killer. It's the only film with one killer, right?
The only film with one killer,
Roman Bridger,
I realize that.
The director of Stab 3, played by Scott Foley, who is Sidney's half-brother. I mean, she cannot catch a break with family here, can she?
This is where it gets quite dark, though, man. Born from rape. So this, Maureen Prescott was consistently raped, at these Hollywood parties, as an actress being in the area at the time. So it's really that side of it gets really fucking dark. It goes back to that rape route which Scream 1 had a little bit, where she thought Billy Loomis had raped and murdered. Oh no, Cotton Weary had raped and murdered her mum, but when in reality, it was a consensual relationship that was happening with her mum, and Billy just raped. Billy didn't rape her. Billy just murdered her. So yeah, it
you know what makes this even more disturbing is the fact that what studio released this film at the time?
Oh, Weinstein.
Miramax. It makes you wonder if any people making it were just like, I wonder if
They
They
fucking
knew.
knew, bro. Probably. It's probably
Yeah.
all
Yeah, yeah.
insider knowledge that they're throwing in there. To
My
be
question
like,
is, did they ever explain why the half brother, like, did she just give him up for adoption, or did she give him to somebody? Because when it's like the mother, it's kind of hard to just not have a baby and come back to the town. Like, if you're the dad, you can be a deadbeat dad and leave, but the mother's carrying around the baby, and then just what does she do?
yeah, I think so. She just abandons him, I think, and then obviously he goes and finds her years later, and she's got her own family. She's living her own life. Doesn't want anything to do with him, and then that's what sets
Yeah,
the emotion. Billy Loomis, you know, he shows Billy the video footage of his dad sleeping with Maureen Prescott, and then that's what breaks up his family. So that's what sets the whole cogs in motion for the entire Scream trilogy, really, at that point.
Yeah.
Which was a bit like, does it kind of ruin the first
actually,
Scream a little bit?
you know what? I
But
thought that was still a solid
know.
connection. I think that was smart. And to be honest, looking at the future films, it is still a stronger connection, or at least reasonable motivation than a lot of the other ones.
And
After that,
And did you want to say anything more about 3, David? Or we move on to 4?
We've got to talk about the character that plays Gail Weathers
Piper Posey.
in where she just fucking, her thing is to just follow Gail around everywhere.
No,
Because she'll get if the murder comes to me, she'll murder you and not me. She's just fucking
great.
She's a fan favorite character now.
Yes.
She's just fucking hilarious.
And there's talk she wanted to come back, but they're just trying to figure it out because of what's her name? Come back, the blonde from 4.
Hayden Panettiere.
Hayden Panettiere. Yeah,
Hayden Panettiere.
So there is
yeah,
talks that
yeah.
she might have not officially died because she got stabbed and fell through the glass, but she didn't get
No
stabbed
body.
multiple times. So
No funeral.
And also with the where there's that two-way mirror shot of the
Mhm.
bedroom. How fucking creepy is that if you think about it?
Oh,
That wasn't really
yeah.
ever
Yeah, that was
actually
pretty bad.
touched upon in the film. But that's fucking
that
weird,
whole
having a two-way
mansion
mirror
is pretty bad.
in the bedroom. Yeah, dude, 100%. It was fucked up.
The funny thing is I watching the movie, I first see it and I'm like, whoa, this is really creepy. And then all the action happens, so I actually do forget about it. But the fact that you brought it back, I'm like, yeah, really bad.
This is also the first movie where we see a returning character that comes back in 5, which is Randy Meeks' sister, who's
Played
the
by
mother of the two characters.
Heather Matarazzo.
I like how they never showed the dad, but he's gonna probably come back into this later on, maybe.
I mean, if you've never met a relation of a character in a film and they're single or divorced, that character is going to be featured in a later film.
Yeah. Another thing, just real quick on this one, which was a silly thing, was the voice changer. That got to me a little bit. How perfect the voice could imitate someone's voice. I mean, that
was a bit much.
That technology is only just a thing now,
Mhm.
with AI being able to replicate your voice. You
know what, though?
How it was a thing back in 2000 and
That's
whatever. Like
that's
2003, was it?
2000.
It was
2000.
Yeah, 2000. Yeah.
The fact that the technology wasn't there, moviegoers at that time didn't know what technology was. It's like The Matrix. They thought anything was possible in movies because the movie said so. And it isn't until I feel like more recently that we have the access to knowledge through YouTube or internet in general is like, oh, that's not realistic. And that's why movies have been tougher to make, to have realistic scenarios that make sense instead of just saying, oh, this this works and this doesn't work.
Yeah, brilliant take that. Yeah,
Mhm.
because people wouldn't have known.
Yeah, because I think
That makes the mystery even a little bit
Yeah,
scarier.
that's-
Is it possible? Is it not
Right.
possible?
although I did like it that it was at least something bigger and it wasn't just that the guy was recording people's voices and replaying. Yes. And so in movie 4, I noticed the technology of the phones changing. That's when it made me laugh when they would unlock their iPhones because it was such a new thing back then. Because in the previous ones there were those classic flip phones, and in movie 4, Scream 4, they started using the iPhones and they made an effort to actually show people unlocking.
They're
their
probably
phones.
getting a decent
Probably.
amount of money
That was
from
hilarious.
Apple for it.
Let's
as
get
well
on to
for
Scream
promoting
4,
it, right?
shall we? Let's move on.
This
Yeah.
was the longest gap
But
as
they
well, wasn't
actually-
it, between the original trilogy,
Mhm,
which
Scream
as
4 was
you
great.
mentioned, David, was planned as a trilogy, and
10
for
years.
me, I did struggle a bit with 4 because when I was doing my notes for this, I
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
even remember who the killers were in it. And when I started checking it out and I was like, right, so the killers are in this Jill Roberts, played by Emma Roberts,
What? Yeah.
who was
yeah.
Sydney's.
I thought you got
No,
a
no,
name wrong then. Yeah,
But they
yeah.
bizarrely
That's
gave the character
name, isn't
the
it?
same surname as the actress. I guess that was
Yeah.
just. Do you reckon on the set they just called her Roberts because they couldn't be bothered? It was just easier. who she plays Sydney's cousin, and then you got Charlie Walker, played by
Right.
Rory Culkin. And
The
The
Culkins,
Culkins.
man. Never suspect a Culkin. I mean, always suspect a
Yeah,
Culkin.
always suspect a Culkin.
Always suspect
after
a
Home
Culkin.
Alone, they're all murderers, man.
Yes. And what was it? This was the one with
The opening triple fake out kill, that was superbly done, man.
Which they even say in themselves is a paradox, or
Yeah.
it's like it's an impossible thing, which they reference as well in the film. That like if it doesn't make any sense that Scream 7's the ending of Scream 6 at the beginning of Scream 8 or something like that, and it's like what?
And I think that was one of the few things where I actually didn't like, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just didn't. I think it was a little sloppy because I mean, though they had great cameos like Kristen Bell and Anna Paquin in the second part. Because
And of course, they were both famous at
I
the
didn't know
time for
them.
Veronica Mars and True Blood. Then you had Lucy Hale and Amy Teagarden, who was from Friday Night Lights, which was a big show at the time. And who was the third one? Who was the third and final one?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because like this is where some of these actors are from shows that I started not watching. You know, these were like different characters, different actresses that I'm like, oh, they look famous, but I don't know who they are.
Well, the one thing is, as well, Scream 4, it has Alison Brie in it, who was at the peak of her community
Yes.
awesomeness at the time.
Mhm.
And then, unfortunately, there isn't enough Alison Brie in it. Because, I mean, you cast prime Alison Brie, you give her, like, a lead role, not just, like, annoying.
Yes, I think they did a good job. They had a good actress. Her character arc was just that she was not manipulative, but she just didn't care. She was heartless to
I mean, she goes the same way as
and,
Sarah Michelle
and so
Gellar,
like
man.
they got her off right away. And the only thing is like, how do you throw someone off the garage onto a news truck and get away? And like, how did this is so fresh in my brain because I just watched it. But like the police officer's like, let's run up, and then like 30 seconds later, like there's no one up here, and I'm like, at least give them a little time, or at least explain it like maybe a minute or two in another scene that they couldn't find anyone. But this is probably, I like this movie because it gave the horror franchise time to evolve, and they were again able to react to it in such a great way.
Yeah, so again, with this film, where we're talking about being ahead of its time, the bloke that's just fucking streaming everything, like that's his thing, is to just stream everything, right? That weren't a fucking thing in 2010. There weren't the bandwidth,
no.
like, there wasn't the internet or whatever you needed to be able to do that.
Look at Emma Roberts, not Emma Roberts, Jill Roberts.
Her
Her motive
motive
was to be famous and have her 5 minutes of fame, and the whole internet-based fame killer thing.
She wanted to be
Exactly.
an influencer.
And this is like, what, 15
Yeah.
years before it
That's
became a real
crazy.
thing?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not 15
Although-
years because we're not there yet. It's not 2025. But
Yeah. Although, when did the Google or the Apple Glass? Was that around the same time? I didn't look it up, but like
it can't
you know,
be.
like glasses.
2010.
2011, the film was, wasn't it?
I
2010. Was
feel like
YouTube even a
it-
thing in
Yeah,
2010?
YouTube's been around for years.
It
man.
had to been close.
But it was kind of about how internet culture has developed and how they, like you guys mentioned, they really got it
Yes.
spot on in where it was headed and how it would be. I mean, it's funny, like you mentioned, like with the iPhones, some of it feels a bit dated now on the tech side of it. But I mean, the social media fame angle was really ahead of its time back in 2011. I was going to say as well, and I really like the ending of this one more than I did originally because Jill's ending is pretty good because she almost pulls it off, and she actually
Yes.
does achieve.
She does a proper
Yeah.
Gone Girl.
She actually achieves
Doesn't
her
she?
5
I
minutes
love
of
it.
fame in her death, so she kind of succeeds in a way. So I'd forgotten all of that when I was doing my research on Scream 4.
Okay, no. So her moment where she's like, throwing herself through the glass table, where she's stabbing herself, it's so fucking good.
Yes.
It's so unhinged. It's proper like it reminded
I was
me of
literally
Gone
gonna
Girl.
mention that.
Well, I don't know if Gone Girl came out
Much
afterwards.
afterwards, man.
I don't know,
Much
fuck it.
afterwards.
It's Gone Will. It's just Gone
Yeah,
Girl.
but it's what Stu and Billy do in the first film, where they start stabbing each other to make it look like, you know.
Yeah.
It's full
But she's
Edward
having to
Norton
do
in
it to
Fight Club.
herself because she kills Culkin. She fucking screws Culkin over. She quite literally stabs him
Yeah.
and screws him, which is what she was after probably the entire time from her. Although this Scream 4 is the Scream with the most gory death in it. The one where Culkin's in the closet the entire time and she's phoning him from the closet and Hayden Panettiere goes, yeah, I'll call your bluff. Opens the closet and he's not there, but of course he's in the closet of their friend's house.
You're right.
And that
was so
death, when
bloody.
Nev Campbell goes in and sees that body, man, there's guts sprawled. It is the most gory death in the Scream
You're right.
franchise, like by far. It's
And
brilliant.
they showed the guts on the bed with her. That was
Yeah,
what
proper,
surprised
like,
me.
it's-
Full
it was
entrails.
really well done.
Always go full entrails.
Okay, I want to just quickly mention Hayden Panettiere in this one is fucking the best thing about this film. She is just
Oh yeah, okay.
I love her in this film. I love her in this film. Not so much in 6, but in this one, she's peak, yeah. Peak Hayden Panettiere.
I would say she's great, but I think they kind of tried to polish her too much as being like such a great character, because like she was like the fanboy's dream girl because she knew about movies, and they took advantage of it. But I don't know. I think
you're right.
toned it
Back
down
then,
a
you
little
didn't
bit,
get
but
girls that
that's
look like
just me.
that being the fangirls, right, in movies. So yeah, I kind of.
That's the point.
Also, to be fair, she was big at the time because of Heroes, right? That must have been around the same because her career since then. I mean, I know she went off, got married to one of the Klitschko brothers, which
Vladimir
is
Klitschko,
insane,
yeah.
and didn't really act for quite a while until she came back for.
Let's not insult her too much here, man. Let's be cool.
I wasn't so. I said she went off and got married. To one of the
But
Klitschko.
she's
Okay,
no,
cool,
she's
cool.
on
I'm
a
just
country-
saying. We don't want to mess up. We don't want to fuck with the
Well, I mean, see,
okay.
No, she came back and she did a show where she pretended or she acted as a country
I saw the
music
trailer.
artist,
I was like,
right?
nope, not for me.
Well, she's in Scream 6, Jose.
Yes,
she returns in
Oh,
Scream
that one
6.
I did catch.
So then we have Scream 5, which Jose has literally watched hours before we record this, and it
Titled
Just
Just
Scream.
Scream to piss everybody off.
yeah. Instead of Scream 5,
I know,
come on,
right?
you couldn't come up with a cool logo for
What's-
that. But it was directed by Matt Bellamy Taylor and Tyler Alpin, who are known as Radio Silence, a filmmaking collective. And their first big film was the excellent Ready or Not, starring Samara Weaving. And that was an
Yeah.
awesome horror film. And that's,
Oh.
I'm guessing that's the film that got them the Scream 5 gig.
Yeah, I mean, the Radio Silence guys started on YouTube. That's where they started, and now they're fucking directing these massive, huge horror franchises. They've got this. They got the new Monster Universe one coming out soon.
Well, good thing they've still got the
Yeah,
Scream
guys are
franchise in,
absolutely
isn't
killing
it?
it.
The intro to this movie with 5 immediately told me they've really polished this movie. There was so much bloodier. I audibly gasped when they broke her leg in the intro, and I was just like, holy crap. And I was genuinely so surprised to hear that she was still alive. So I was immediately suspicious of her character.
The first
I
one,
was like, what the hell's going on?
one where the killer at the beginning survives it. Jenna Ortega, obviously now a massive fucking star.
They really lucked out on
Yeah,
that.
they
honestly.
did.
Right? I think quite a lot of franchises are just like, fucking yes, you got Jenna Ortega early.
I'm sure she's down for a
Pre-Wednesday,
trilogy.
Boom.
Look at the small print.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, does anyone actually know of any of the other stars of this film? Because I honestly feel like I'm aged out.
I'd never heard of Melissa Barrera before. Jasmine Savoy Brown, who plays Mindy, was in Yellow Jackets last year as well, so she kind of broke on that at the same time. But yeah, Chad, a brother.
You've got the gentleman from Jack Quaid's obviously he's in The Boys.
And,
Yes.
I mean, okay, so
He's
yes.
pretty big. Dylan Minnette, he was in like 13 Reasons Why. He's in Ghost. Is it the?
Oh, you're right.
Not
he is.
Ghostbusters.
I recognize
it's
him.
Goosebumps. He's in Goosebumps. I think the movie. Yeah.
now I got to say, I did the second I saw Jack Quaid, I was like, he's going to be one of the killers because it's time for it to be the boyfriend again, and
You
Never trust the love interest.
That's what
And-
Jimmy tells you.
they were going for a kind of a requel, as Mindy calls it herself in the film. So they had to show enough homage to the
Yes.
original films if you're going to keep the same title. But also you need to move it on away. So of course this is now the Carpenter sisters story, and it's funny how, like I say, in Scream 5, it's Sam, and again little nod there to John Carpenter, and of course Elm Street Avenue. Is it not Elm Street? What's the name of the street? It is Elm Street, isn't it? In 5.
There are, yeah. There is a reference to Elm Street somewhere in
But
it. Yeah.
I just love the fact that it resets the franchise, and it's even though you've got Sydney in it. I was watching it and I was thinking, Sydney doesn't actually need to be in this because they are tight. They're starting a new story with the Carpenter sisters and all that connection with that. And although it's as we find out at the end, she is Billy Loomis's illegitimate daughter, and she sees CGI Skeet Ulrich in the.
That's actually
talking to
Skeet
her.
Ulrich.
Yeah, it's definitely him.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
They
They
go
got
back.
back. I don't think they did put him through a de-aging machine.
Yeah, he doesn't
Did
look
they?
like that still, man.
They did a little bit. I saw a little blurb. They only needed a little bit because he's actually in good condition. of,
He's in
like,
good. He's doing
so-
all right. He's in good condition.
I mean,
They kept him in a
I don't know
drawer
if
for the
that's
last
the
10
right
years.
terminology. But The only thing is, because I watched these movies so close, I was still a little traumatized from the whole part 3, her seeing her dead mom. That I was like, oh, do we really want this? But it didn't seem as bad as the third one.
No, because what they're trying to do with this is they're definitely trying to make you think, is Sam going to become a killer?
Ooh, okay.
That's what they're trying to make you think,
nice.
isn't it? Because
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean,
the daughter of a killer who sees her dead father.
you're right. I think the legacy characters, as they've come to be known,
Yes.
in this the new trilogy that's being born by
We have
Radio
to
Silence
mention
people, is obviously
they had the balls to
kill off one of them.
Oh.
They killed off.
I was
Dewey.
so surprised. I think I knew it about a second before it happened, because I'm like, oh, they need to shoot him in the head.
Amber.
And that was the
fucking Amber kills off
was
Dewey.
I know.
Oh man,
How crap
Died
was
like a
Amber
pussy.
then, seriously.
According to her, something, whatever she said.
She wasn't. That's why I didn't like Amber, because she was barely in it enough to be warranted, and that's why I don't like with some of the Scream films where you have the second killer and you're like, oh, it's that person who's barely been in it. Great, so side character, and she was the definition of a crap side character. I was like,
she was a part of the Friends group. She had all that going
she
on.
was
You know,
rubbish.
the killer's always a part of
a
the
little
Friends
too
groups. One of the
quirky
rules.
with her reveal was just
She
like,
was pants.
It was a bit funny, but she was very much trying to harness the inner Stu Macher, wasn't
Yeah.
she?
Yeah,
she went
she
on
was.
that unhinged,
Yeah.
The
crazy
bit in the
girl,
kitchen.
right, yeah.
That was a good death. That was one of the best deaths in the
Catches
franchise,
fire.
I think.
Oh, with
goes
the
up,
fire?
catches fire.
That really shocked me. Yeah, but you know what? 5 was the first movie where they were like, let's finally give them guns. Because I'm like, this whole time, I'm like, after the second movie, you'd think they'd register to carry
this
weapons.
is America.
We're in the United States.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're in the U.S. You're allowed to carry a weapon. Please. Because this guy only uses knives. And like, even in the 5th one, though, he did use weapons.
Knives more personal, man. You get really in deep.
Definitely. Very much.
But what I love about this movie is that the whole film is one massive homage to Wes Craven. The character, there's a character that dies in it very early called Wes. And the whole end sequence is just a party celebrating Wes. And it's just a Wes Craven party celebration of his life. And that is beautiful.
Because this is the first film
Since post his death.
since he's passed away. Yeah.
So yeah, beautiful moment for Wes Craven. But let's also mention like the motives for our two killers, so Jack Quaid and Amber. I don't know why I mentioned one of them as the actor's name and one of them as the character's name.
Yes, Emma Roberts' motive, but doubled now. I mean, I think the motive here is more realistic, although the acting from the female actress
Did Amber have a
is a little more
motive?
questionable. But
No, that was hilarious. She was brilliant. She was unhinged. She was just. She was a girl on the edge. She was a woman on the edge.
yes,
So yeah, the reason like there'd been 8 stabs up to this movie, so the 8th stab had just come out in the Scream universe, and they were just fucking shit at that point, right? They're
Yeah,
just taking
that was
the piss
pretty
out of
good.
it. They had the Dead Silence podcast making a cameo on there as the YouTube
Yes.
guys being like, "This is fucking shit." Like the stab 8 is useless.
Yeah.
What have they done to this franchise? And then that's why Jack Quaid, he wanted to redo it. He wanted to go back to the roots. He wanted to create the sequel.
Yeah.
But he wanted to be the hero of it. He wanted to be.
So what you're telling me, David, is that last Halloween trilogy is your villain origin story.
That's it.
The
man.
first one was good. We were like, it's pretty good. Then we saw the second one, Halloween Kills, and Evil died tonight, except it didn't.
It never does.
And then the third film, what the fuck were they doing with that? But yeah,
That's it, man.
I can see the reasoning. Why did Jack Quaid want to kill everyone? Because he
Fame.
watched the new Halloween trilogy.
It's very similar to the motive of the second Scream. You know, movie violence. It sort of ties
I gotta
in with
be
it a little bit.
that did come back. The only thing I didn't really like is there were some implausibilities that were even for like the movie universe, like the power going out in a hospital. I'm like, they do not have power outages even if you cut power.
You would have backup
Yeah,
generators,
there's
man.
like I said, after the first Scream, there's a lot of like really just silly moments that just wouldn't actually happen. Yeah.
I have to say though, it's a solid film overall. You know, and it's definitely a different polish. I think the gruesomeness was pretty good. It wasn't necessarily bloody, even though that face stabbing could have been a lot bloodier of the son.
I think they upped the amount of stabbings. There's a lot of stabbings in it, but they cut back on the actual showing the
gruesomeness,
gore, as it were.
Like
Yeah.
honestly, I really thought they did a great. What's the term again?
Job.
But like a prequel or a legacy sequel in a way.
Requel.
I think they did a good job.
As they termed it themselves.
I think they did a great job of doing the requel. honestly. And then obviously 6 came out, and that makes me think 6 came out almost about the same year,
A year later.
time span. So they knew what they had, and I think that they were ready.
I think they've planned a new trilogy, man.
I think so,
definitely
yeah.
think. And me and Dave are going to talk about 6. Well, we mute you, Jose,
Yes.
because you haven't caught
Get
up
out of
yet.
here, Jose. Get out of here.
Right, Scream 6, David.
Talk to me
I
about it, Neil.
loved it. I really liked it, man.
Yeah, well, so I had big issues with it. I enjoyed it in the cinema
Okay.
a lot, but on repeat thinking, repeat viewing. So yeah, I was really worried. On repeat viewing, sorry.
Yeah.
And thinking further on it, it actually really fucking annoys me a little bit. It grates on me. So one of the biggest problems with it is
Tell me your problems, David.
they fucking killed Samara Weaving off in the first.
I
5
know.
minutes. I mean, fucking
You
pissed me
don't
off
kill.
straight away.
Didn't I say that? I said to you, if she's in
And
it,
the whole idea of her not being attractive, fucking hell, it's Samara Weaving. She can get a date just walking down the street.
yeah, that's. And I'm sorry, but no one has a film teacher that looks like
I
Samara.
know. Anyway, and then I liked that there's killers within the killers though. So there's like a whole set of killers that get killed off by the killers. That was fucking brilliant. That was fantastic.
Dude, the opening reveal of Ghostface, Tony Rivoli, because for a second you think we're going to get a film where we know who the killer is.
This is arguably the best intro to a Scream film since
the original?
the first one. Yeah, since the first one. And the second
Yeah,
one
yeah.
was very good as well. So it's up there with the first three of an opening, 100%. What annoyed me was, brilliant, 3 killers for the first time. And we see two ghost faces in costume for one of the...
Yeah.
For, I think only the second time in the whole franchise. And it's really fucking memorable when he's just stabbing, stab.
Or Tony.
So when Dewey, he gets stabbed once in the back in the first film, right?
Right.
And he's got permanent nerve damage throughout the rest of the
There's
franchise.
so many stabbings in this film.
And there's
More
so
so
many
than 5.
stabbings, man. So many stabbings in 5 from characters that survive and come back into this film, and they're just fucking normal.
I know. I
You
literally made a note saying apparently getting stabbed in this day and age is nothing because so many
Yeah.
people get stabbed repeatedly and survive with no ill effects.
Yeah,
Chad,
dude,
Chad should be like Dewey. I mean, Chad is the new Dewey, to be fair.
yeah. He should be permanently. If he is not, at least like
Walking
in some
slowly.
some sort of like
Iron lung.
I'll be quite annoyed if he's not like really badly permanently damaged from this last stabbings that he's had because it's just fucking dumb. But I love Jenna Ortega again, amazing.
They definitely upped her character a bit more, didn't they, in this one? Because they realised, oh shit, she's the big star now. No offense to Melissa Barrera, because I think they're both superb, but they realised she's not like the supporting sister. It's actually, no, let's push her up a bit.
100%, man. And obviously they brought back Hayden Panettiere from the 4th film, so they're connecting all of the movies, back into one. Because I felt like
I never
the
bought
4th
Kirby
film,
as the killer.
I
never bought Kirby as a killer for 1 second.
So I guess 2 of the killers very early on
Alright.
in this film, which is one of the most disappointing things for me. First viewing, I guessed 2 of the killers. So I guessed that it was the police officer, and I guessed that it was the female, his daughter, that dies. I guess that death was fake, and I guess
because
that
they
it was the
haven't
police
done that
officer as
before.
well.
They haven't done that before, have they? So that was clever.
Well, they've done it all the time. That's how I guessed it was a thing. Yeah, so I guessed that it was a fake death because fake deaths are like a staple of the franchise at the moment, right? These fake moments, and her dying, and it just didn't make sense to me that, and then the police officer going in there and seeing and dealing with it, and I was just like, that's the moment where that's the killer. I got it straight away, and that annoyed me. What I didn't get was that there'd be 3 killers though. That's what I didn't get, and I didn't get that other one was going to be a part of the family.
That's the most disappointing thing for me. I thought the film was really good. I thought Ortega and Barrera was superb.
How many people actually died in the movie?
Hardly any.
After the beginning, how many people died?
Not many. Do you know the number?
I think 1.
Yeah.
The person that died off the ladder.
The directors said in an interview they wanted to do a Scream where the largest reasonable amount of characters could survive because everyone was expecting even more death after part 5. And I think I noted this on my first watch.
Disappointment.
But no, it seemed to me like they tried to do as well, a lot of times in 6, the exact opposite of what they did in 5. As much as you could expect to do within a Scream while staying true to the franchise. And yeah, I do agree, having a lot less murders is kind of... But I think the reason they've done that is because you're going to get a trilogy. They want you to really, really care for the characters. So when we get to the next one and they kill off maybe one of the sisters, maybe they kill off Mindy or Chad properly, you're going to go, shit, they killed Mindy and Chad, man.
I love that the whole thing was like a shrine to all the other Screams, though.
Yeah.
You know, where you literally, the ending moment happens in quite literally a shrine.
Yeah.
And they've got just all the other Scream costumes. You know, you've got the Stu's TV. You've got everything, you know, all the other murder weapons.
But I think I agree with you.
I love that.
The worst part of the film, though, for me, is the reveal of the killers.
Yeah, dude, so disappointing.
The link was weak, and I like...
There were so many really dumb moments as well in it, where they could have just caught the killer. The killer traps himself. Ghostface traps himself so many times, where all they had to do was close the door, and he'd be trapped. Running at someone with a fucking loaded gun. If you've got a loaded gun and the other person's got a knife, why the fuck are you running at them? Honest, that moment just was just like, oh, fucking so stupid.
So I was going to say, why? So what? Some of my little minor issues, and it's kind of what you have more because you're obviously more into them than me. Why wouldn't they wait at the next train station for Mindy and Ethan? Who would be oh no, we just wait. They're on the next train. We'll wait for them in a crowded place rather than no. Let's go to the murder mansion
when
all by
you know
ourselves.
this is happening. Like, don't split up. It's like the number one rule as well.
And
they
also,
know this.
How many times did characters have an argument with each other, looking at you, Carpenter sisters, and then they run off by themselves to be alone? And I mean, the film does
they break
get away
so
with it.
many of their own rules in this film, which is what annoyed me, because they know, like, you know the rules, you know you're in a horror film, stick to the rules, and they're purposely breaking them, and not like referencing that they're purposely breaking them. Like, if you're going to purposely break them, reference that you're purposely breaking them.
One thing I did really like, though, and I mean, one thing I didn't think was a major issue, though, is I don't think we miss Sydney being in it, because how would you have even fitted her into this film? Because it's not her story now.
Yeah,
and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I did miss her a little bit. It felt like, especially if you've watched them, I watched them all back to back again, and it did feel like she left a hole.
Yeah, because she's in everyone. She is the star of the franchise, but her character wasn't needed in this film, and what it did well, it made 5 even better for me, because it's focused much more on the Carpenter sisters. I would have liked it if they could have come to some agreement with her, where she literally gets a phone call from Gail, and she's like, fuck that, you guys deal with it. And like, I love that
Gail hears Ghostface on the phone for the first time. The first time Gail's spoken to Ghostface in 6 movies.
They did the opposite. They did the opposite of the last film, where you definitely think Gail's going to die, and then they don't. And Gail's new boyfriend, beep, beep, he's gone. I wasn't greatly keen on CGI Ghost Dad Billy again, unless it goes somewhere, David. And this is kind of what I want. Are they going to have the balls to pull the trigger and have Sam? I mean, Sam and Tara, they got really good at killing.
Like I said to you, it would make more sense if Jenna Ortega's the killer. If Jenna Ortega becomes the killer of the next one, that would make more sense, because it's because it's building up for Sam to be the killer. It would make more sense if they have. But Jenna
do you
Ortega
think they have the guts to have either of the sisters be the killer in this one? Do you think? Because it's not been done.
If they do, it's Jenna Ortega, but I don't think they will.
I mean, I think she'd love that though as well, wouldn't she? You know, comes in and be like, right, I'm gonna.
Dude, she'd be the best, one of the best reveals of a Ghostface, hands down. Because she'd be like, it would be.
So we're calling it now, right? We are predicting Jenna Ortega the killer in Scream 7.
Well, I
one of the killers.
It's a good chance. It's a good chance. Yeah, one of the killers. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's do that. Right, I think we can bring Jose.
Should we bring Jose back?
Jose!
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah! Back you on.
Dude, right, you were so distracting.
When you were talking, we could hear you. And it would cut to you on the screen. And you're like, Neil's looking down now. David's looking up. They're looking animated. You were just commentating on us.
David's really excited about something. I'm sorry.
Before we get to our rundowns, we have listener comments.
Ooh.
Woo!
I put a tweet out, and man, they have been flowing in this evening while we've been recording, and I've just been copying and pasting like a madman. So, first up, let's say thanks to Stu over at Stu World Order, who I'm going to be joining for a guest spot very soon. He gave us his Scream rankings, which are, he's gone in order of best, 1, 5, 2, 6, 3, 4.
Ooh.
Interesting. Okay.
Interesting.
He had 4 laughs.
Yeah, I'm surprised about 4 laughs.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 4.
And he had 5 seconds.
5 seconds. 1, 5, 2, 3, 6, 4.
1, 5, 2, 6, 3, 4. Yes. Definitely not a code to log into stuff. Cage Fighting said, one of the premier Nick Cage podcasts out there, Cage Fighting said, Scream should never have had a sequel, let alone 5, parodying the never-ending diminishing returns nature of these horrors, and then becoming never-ending diminishing returns, stale with nothing interesting or relevant to say, series is a disappointment. Harvey put it best: you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. And there's a gif of Harvey Dent from the Dark Knight.
Not.
I love that reference, but yeah, I
if
disagree
it
as well.
existed. What are they talking about?
I'm guessing the guys at Cage Fighting are not fans of Scream, David.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
Which not everyone has to be, to be fair.
Yeah, everyone.
We then have the Point Plus, a pop culture podcast, have given us their ratings, which is, in order of best, 1, 2, 5, 4, 3, and 6 last.
Wow. That's really surprising.
We have from Sweet Films and Alcohol, brilliant name for a podcast. They have gone 1, 5, 2, 6, 4, and 3.
A lot of 5s being second.
People
a
are really.
lot of 5s being
A
second.
lot of them. And they put a comment as well saying, really wanted 6 to be higher on the list, but the lack of main character deaths left me feeling a little underwhelmed.
I'll forget about that.
Well, that's what we
I'll
spoke
forget
about.
about that.
That's what we spoke about, man.
Put your heads in your fingers for this next comment. So Wizard Podcast said, hopefully, GIF of Jenna Ortega is back for 7. And as we just mentioned, David, we're predicting now.
Back for 7.
Yeah. And their numbers were, they went 1, 2, 5, 4, 3, and 6. So 6 not getting a lot of love, man.
Yeah. Let's is that everyone?
Yeah, that's it. That's everyone. That's everyone.
Amazing.
So now our rankings. Jose.
I'm gonna rank from obviously 1 through 5, which I've seen.
1 to 5.
Honestly, 1, 5, 4, 2, 3. And I'm not saying that 2 is that bad, but I just like the other ones better, honestly.
Fair enough.
Neil?
I'm going to go,
yours.
Obviously, David, you have to go last on the screen one. I am going to go 1, 2, 6, 5, 4, and 3. And I moved 4 and 3 round.
Ah.
Okay, interesting. So, mine are, and this is obviously of personal entertainment, it's all subjective, but I love the fact that everybody's got
different
a different fucking order.
Yeah.
I love that.
Although most people have 1 as 1.
Yes,
So my number 1 is, my order is this: 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 6.
Wow.
Okay, so you're a 6 last guy.
So here's a question I have then for you guys. Should I go try to catch 6 in the theater, or should I just wait for it to come out on streaming?
I would say, out, man.
I'd say see it in the theater.
Nah, there's no.
I like this.
I mean, see it in the theater if you want it, but there's no real reason. There's no reason. It's not like fucking Avatar where you got to see it in the cinema.
So it's.
I liked it. I really liked it. I would see it in the cinema.
I gotta say, the one thing about the new 5 and I saw the trailer for 6. It just seemed like it had a bigger budget, but like it was like the look of it was really nice. I don't know if it's a good movie, but it just looks nice.
They're all good movies. That's what we should say. 1 to 6 are all good. Every single one of them. It's just your subjective opinion as to which one you like most.
And I think we can agree, even the weakest films in the series, which apparently, according to Twitter, a lot of people seem to not like the most recent one.
6 and 3, I think, are the
6 and 3, and 3's my bottom as well. What I think the new director is doing really well, Jose, is they're definitely building to a trilogy.
Okay.
I would not be surprised at all to go, Scream 7's coming out this time next year, because they've clearly got an idea. And why I like 5 and 6 so much is when I saw them back to back. They had this double screening, and when 6 came out, and so watching 5 a second time, knowing who all the killers are, really makes you realise what a great job they did with it.
Yeah.
And then watching 6 straight afterwards, it feels like just a continuation of the same story.
You had 6 above 5, didn't you?
I had 6 above 5, yeah.
Wow.
Because I really like 6.
Interesting.
As me and David mentioned, 6, Jose, no spoilers, but it has the most inventive opening scene in a Scream film since the original.
Oh wow!
Yeah, if we're ranking openings, it's probably 1, 6, 2.
Yeah,
I really liked the opening.
That's
6.
really cool.
It's a very, very clever. So just for that alone, I would see it in the cinema because people's reaction is like,
you know what? I think because of that, I'll try to see it in the theaters. I have a very busy weekend coming, but hopefully I make it before it leaves theaters. But yeah, no, that's awesome.
Right. Well, folks, I hope that's enough stabbings to satisfy you all. Thanks to Jose. Say a Scream line.
I'll be right back.
And welcome back to David, who's definitely still alive.
Nah, man, that was death. I died earlier. I forgot that even happened, man. That was so many like different Zoom calls ago. I forgot that happened.
Goddamn Zoom calls, man. Anyway, all I can say, guys, is it's been a Scream. We'll be right back soon. Or will we, David? Or will we?
Watch your favorite scary movie.
One with a better ghost face than you.
Oh,
I tried my hardest, okay?
David, you're gonna be gutted like a fish.
they used that a little bit in some of the other ones, didn't they? They like gutted and sliced. I guess obviously because the main weapon is.
That was the end, Jose. We're done.